Yeah, one of my favorite people, Mr. Steve Higgins. We are here as we celebrate Veterans Day weekend at the Larry Bruno Foundation in Beaver Falls. And, the coach wore many uniforms, but this, I'm sure, was one of his proudest right here. Tell me a little bit about this picture, Steve.
Well, Coach Bruno graduated high school in 1940, and when he was being recruited by Geneva, one of the things that he was told was, you come to Geneva, and if a war breaks out, you won't have to go. You'll be in college for 4 years. We promise you.
So much for that.
So much for that. After, I think Coach played 1 year, and then obviously we all know what happened, and he ended up in Guadalcanal in the middle of his playing career, and he was there, and those two pictures are from Guadalcanal, and then he returned to Geneva in 46, 47, and then he finished out his playing career.
Can you imagine what downtown Beaver Falls, 7th Avenue was like when we had victory in Europe and obviously victory in Japan?
I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. It was probably pretty great. Like you see those pictures up in New York.
Yeah.
With everybody, they're kissing everybody and that. It was probably similar on our streets because, big veteran city.
Obviously, Joe Namath, the connection here, and Joe, while growing up, civil rights, Vietnam War, he goes into pro football. You play for Bear Bryant in the South. Joe plays for Bear Bryant in the South. The one thing I can positively say, when you're in a foxhole, it's not about anything but that soldier, regardless of race, religious beliefs, whatever. And we grew up in a melting pot. People from all walks of life, all religious. In fact, you tell the story about on game day, how Coach would have every denomination represented, from Jewish to Lutheran to Christian to Catholic, and you would go to a service prior to that game. And I think such a shining example, all of those people who have served, especially World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and with time passing, we're losing so many of them every day. It's really important to pay tribute, something I've been doing for decades on KDK Radio. And this coming Monday will not be an exception because we're going to do exactly that. As a matter of fact, KDK Radio all day long, special programming brought to you by some incredible people, including a very familiar name here in Beaver County, John Diagardi at Rome Monument. And of course, Rome Inspiration. You know them from
Great
Rochester.
Great company.
Think about, though, these athletes who came back home after the war. For instance, we were talking about a mutual friend, Mark Namath. And by the way, to Mike Rays and Mark Namath, he saw the video that we did from your house, Mark, about the Joe Namath junior high helmet.
The claws are out.
He wants it. He wants it.
But guys, it belongs in the museum here where Joe's stuff, where everyone can see it. Please consider donating it.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Mark's dad came home. He was 26 years of age. He actually enrolled at Geneva and played football.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
a lot of these guys came back, GI Bill, and they played football. So
yeah, I didn't realize it was like that. A lot of these guys did that because Coach Bruno played in the East-West Shrine game in 1947. He was an All-American halfback at Geneva. I mean, you go up to the stadium, there's only 4 guys on the field house, and he's one of them. And he played in the East-West Shrine game. He was a little All-American. He led the nation in scoring for most of the season. He ended up, I think, 3rd in the nation in scoring his senior year. And but he was a guy that, had his college education interrupted by the war. And there were a lot of guys in that era that, was in the same boat.
So since we last got together, you guys made it to the big time. NBC was here. Tell me about that.
Oh, boy. What an exciting time. They called, Jimmy Carbone calls and says they're over here at the school. They want to come over and take pictures for the Sunday night game, of course, to promote Joe, Beaver Falls. And of course, I flew over here, and it was great, man. It was great. They didn't interview anybody. They just took pictures of the museum, and they took pictures over at the high school. And the 3rd quarter of the game, the #1 show in America, with millions and millions of people watching, there we were.
Big time.
So the only thing is Mike Tirico didn't mention our name.
Come on, Mike.
But he did mention Beaver Falls, and he mentioned Beaver Falls High School. And you know what? That's what we're all about anyway.
That's right, man.
So I'm happy that they got the plug because through them, we're being promoted, okay? So I was just, that's what Joe brings to the table. Rob. I mean, just have how many museums have NBC call up and say, hey, we want to film you and we want to put it on national TV?
So I had
I'm
someone
just so excited about that.
who represents a major corporation said to me, because I helped them, he said, what can we do for you? I said, I don't need anything. Are you sure? And I said, that's a kind of nice jersey you got on. He said, well, let me send you one. I said, oh, that's fine. Yeah. He said, any particular number? And I went, 12. He said, why is that? I said, you ever hear of Joe Namath? He's from the other side of the country. He's like, absolutely. He has such a profound effect on me to this day, every single day, but especially during football season. And I have gone through a really tough year because of the Jets doing what they're doing. I really thought Aaron Rodgers would get us where we needed to go because I've always considered them kind of like my other team next to the Steelers,
right?
Because of Joe. But this is something awesome that you can find out more about with him. Mike Sullivan, who is a legendary artist, these are his works over our shoulder. You're going to have a chance to buy some of this stuff, so tell me about it.
Well, Mike hooked up with Joe through the NFL, and Mike is from Buffalo, New York, world-renowned artist. He's the artist of the NFL. He's the artist of Joe Namath's golf outings, all kind of other projects. He's working on murals in stadiums all over the country, Jackie Robinson murals and things like that. And when he came to Beaver Falls to do the mural at the high school, he had heard, again, I get so happy when people say, we've heard of you, because we know that the word's getting out about us. And he says, we heard there was a museum in town that had some Joe stuff. Can you show me? And I'm like, of course. And he came in. We have some pictures of Mike in here and of him being here. And right away, he says, I'm going to help you guys. A week later, we get about 10 prints from Mike Sullivan.
Big.
And he wrote a note. He says, sell them, auction them, whatever can benefit the foundation. You have my permission.
It was also very tough for me to see the Yankees lose because I'm a diehard Yankee fan. And one of the reasons, obviously, is just the history of the Yankees. And it goes back to Joe, Bachelor's 3, and a guy by the name of Mickey Mantle who played there. But this is an incredible story. Speaking of museums, you know, I have this love affair with the Hannes Wagner Museum in Carnegie. Been there many times, probably some of the most viewed videos that I've ever done. So I come here to Beaver Falls to talk football, and then he tells me this story. Go ahead.
Which
You got
one?
a gentleman playing on the same team. With
You know, that's why I love doing what I'm doing.
Stories, connect.
Guys come in through the years, and people come up to me, and you're one of them, and you say, hey, you know a lot about history. You know why? Because these guys are coming in telling me the stories.
Well, tell them the story.
The guy comes in, and the Pettler family is a well-known name in Beaver Falls. Okay, I went to school with some Pettlers. There was business in town. The Pettlers owned a business in town. And this guy shows up from California, and he says, my name's David Pettler, and my grandfather played on the 1907 Beaver Falls team.
Wow.
We happen to have the picture here, and he pointed his grandfather out. But then he says, my grandfather's brother played in the same infield with Hannes Wagner. And then he went on, just kept talking. I'm like, whoa, put the brakes on here, brother. Say what? Yeah. Uncle Jake Pettler played in the same infield with Hannes Wagner. I says, you got my attention, okay? Well, here in 1917 was Hannes Wagner's last year with the Bucks. He was playing first base that year. He's old.
Right.
Second baseman, Jake Pettler. I looked him up on Google him, and it says grew up in Beaver Falls. I about fell off my chair. And what happened was he was born, he's like Artie DeSisto. My buddy Artie, that's my age,
Right.
born in the Bronx, moved here for family reasons to Beaver Falls. Artie he's Dwight Collins' inspiration, Artie DeSisto. At the banquet, Dwight told the story, who inspired you? That little 130-pound defensive back over there that wore number 30 was the hardest hitting player I ever seen, and he inspired me to play football in high school. That's Artie DeSisto, right? Artie was from the Bronx. He moved here, same age as me. Same thing with this Pettler guy. Rob, seriously, played in the same infield with Hannes Wagner. Beaver Falls, man,
was the mega.
our reach is
It was
amazing.
the mecca.
It's amazing that the people from this town, what they have accomplished.
All right, so let's talk some other things.
Okay.
When is this place open? How can people come and see it?
I just got the estimate on the sign outside. The sign's going up. It'll be up before Christmas.
So during the holidays, people coming back home, they can come over here.
Well, not exactly be open. The sign will be up not till the beginning of the year. We're going to miss the Christmas shopping this year.
But people are going to be able to come over maybe one night a week to
actually when it opens?
In January.
Oh, yeah. When it opens, it'll be open 2, maybe 3 nights a week.
Oh, nice.
And then Saturdays. It depends on staffing. Right now, I got enough staffing for 2 days a week and Saturday. I'm trying to add that third day, trying to find somebody. But it's going to open as soon as we get the sign up because we don't want to get too impatient and open up and then have all these new additions and then no one sees it. We want it to be great because we want Joe here.
I know.
We want Joe here. Now, we got people like Mike Sullivan. We got people, Candy Young. We got some people that want to be involved in our grand opening. So we are going to plan, hopefully we're going to have some celebrity status people here. We're going to have a ribbon cutting out front. We'll have refreshments. You know, the grand opening will be a pretty cool thing.
All right. So
you'll definitely be invited.
Man, I can't wait. All right. Now here's the other thing. So I'm talking to you. And one of the things I said, do you realize you played at Alabama? Well, he ended up going to Pitt. So I'm sitting here thinking about the timeline. If you would have maybe decided to go to Pitt from the jump, you would have been on that national championship team.
You think I'd ever think of that? Oh,
I'm sitting there going, because Pitt's having a great year. They got to bounce back against Virginia tomorrow.
Right.
Tony Dorsett.
Pitt was really my first choice.
Why?
I wanted to go to Pitt in the worst way. I loved Jackie Sherrill. I loved everything about Pitt. And it turned out, and I was getting a lot of information from Bobby Middleman, who was actually the equipment manager in those years.
Mm-hmm.
And equipment managers know a lot.
They know a lot.
What's going on. And what he heard was they wanted me and Kevin as a team.
Scanlon.
Right. They were going to offer both of us a scholarship. Well, Kevin already accepted at NC State, so he was out of the equation. So they figured, well, with him gone, they never offered me.
Tell everybody who's coming up. He's here.
Our man, Linwood Alford, because, you know, it's Veterans Day. Coach Bruno and Linwood Alford's he's our military